I started the stream. Give it a few seconds. Got to load up that pipe full of those bits. Got to push the pipe, push the bits. There we go. Hello. I'm hearing crackling, but that's probably Discord. Yeah, I think there. Okay, you're live on Mimo, but you're crackly on Discord. So maybe restart Discord? Because they're hearing it as well. Well, listen now. Listen now, John. I just enabled her voice. It was off for some reason. I think because I didn't want to hear you twice. Okay, I've lost your audio everywhere. So I'm not getting your audio on Mimo. So let me restart you on Mimo just to make sure. Hold on here. Reconnect. There we go.
You hear me now?
Yeah. Mimo, you're coming through now.
Okay, good. Discord is taking its darn sweet time coming back, so tell the audience I'll be there as soon as Discord decides to reopen. Discord sure is a pesky little thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm now, maybe because of Discord starting up, you're like 2 frames a second.
Okay. Let me kill Discord again. Because Discord's not really starting. All right. Come back over here. Yes, I see that 2 frames a second. Force quit. Okay, tell me whether that, did I speed up on Mimo Live or no?
Yes. You sped
Interesting.
Up and you're back in sync. So what did you change?
Just stop trying to load Discord. So this is fun. Are you entertaining the audience in the chat room, Steve?
Sure.
You should tell them what you're saying, what we're talking about, since they can't hear me.
Okay.
No, you don't have to type it. They can hear you.
Not everyone's listening.
Yes, but if they're not listening, then they're watching YouTube, in which case they can hear me.
They could be looking at the chat room.
Just looking at text. Yeah, that's it, huh?
Could be.
All right. Well, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to load Discord again. Unless I do this. I'm going to stop this. I'm doing some stuff here. No, I cannot get Discord started again. So that's unfortunate. Did you tell people that?
Are you using it on the same machine that you're recording on?
I always have to. It's the only way to get my voice in.
I could give you my my MacBook.
What would that do?
You could log into Discord.
How would my audio get piped into it?
Audio, that's the issue, yeah.
Uh-huh. Well, I can do this. This is going to be really stupid. I can go into Discord and I can go into the live chat and they can hear me through the microphone on the iPad.
Yeah.
Let's see. Join voice channel.
How is your processor? Is it pretty loaded?
Oh, except I better mute that. It is because of Discord trying to start. Okay, can you guys hear me in the chat?
I think I hear you. Sounds great.
Why can't I've got the audio turned all the way down? Okay, try. Does it sound really bad?
A little teeny.
Yeah, so you are hearing me through my iPad, and that's all I can do because I can't reopen Discord. So if you want to hear the good audio, you're going to have to go to YouTube, the YouTubes.
Okay.
Because I can't, or I can reboot with 6 minutes after the hour. What do you guys vote?
I don't know if we have time for a reboot here.
Okay. This audio works for the next hour. Okay, Rick is the reigning person in charge.
Yep.
Unless because we don't have Sandy and we don't have Kevin. So a quick roll call. I see Brett, Elliot, Jill, Dorothy, Rose, Rick, and Steve, and I don't see the people on the side, so I don't know if we got Wheels is in there. There he is, and Titanbot is somebody. You sound like you have a French accent. All right. Well, glad you could make it for a little bit, Rose. Okay, I am going to go ahead and start recording because we are behind the times thanks to Discord. If we can ever figure out a way to get my audio in at the same time, that would be an interesting way to go. I don't know. Maybe if I had a mixer or something. Oh, Sandy made it. Yay.
Panting.
Woo. Panting. All right, good. Okay, well, good. Now I can actually start. All right, I'm muting Steve possibly. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeet.com, a technology geek podcast with an ever so slight Apple bias. Today is Sunday, November 3rd, 2019, and I think this is show number 756. I have been messing up the show numbers right and left, and I think it's like, I don't know, I have some kind of disability in figuring out what the show number is. I think I screwed up Chit Chat Across the Pond again last week. I don't know. I go through a very robust process. I look at the last episode and I increment up by one, and I'm almost always wrong. I was off by 200 and something on Chit Chat the other day. So anyway, it might be episode 756. Who knows? Well, in Chit Chat Across the Pond this week, Bart Busschots is back with Programming by Stealth episode or installment, he calls it, 85, in which we review objects as arrays in JavaScript. I got to say, I'm really enjoying his work circling us back through things we learned a long time ago, because he's also teaching us those things and telling us about new things that we can do since the language has actually progressed since we last saw those tools. I actually got my homework done this week and done well. I did it like 3 or 4 different ways. They call it refactoring when you make it better. I have to admit, I had an awful lot of help from my teaching assistant, Dorothy. Never could have got it done without her. Anyway, for the homework, we created a set of cards on screen that showed the currency rate as a function of a base country. So like if it was versus the euro, I guess that's not a country. Let's say versus New Zealand, you would see that New Zealand, what the exchange rate for different countries were based on New Zealand. Anyway, it was super fun. We got to use Ajax and JavaScript and for loops and looping and mustaches and templates and all kinds of nerdy goodness. Anyway, I had a blast. If you'd like to learn along with us, check out Programming by Stealth in your podcatcher of choice, or you can listen right over at podfeet.com, where you'll find links to Bart's fabulous tutorial show notes and all of the examples. Right. We are going to do, let's see, we should save. Did anybody say save?
Actually, Rick did. Good job, Rick.
Did he? Good job. Good job, Rick.
Well
Stay
done.
on it. All right. Copy link. Copy the thing. Try to use the chapter mark thing. Have it not work. And
we should check this out.
It won't work. Yeah, it didn't work.
Nova.
No. I really should write to the guys that wrote Hindenburg, because they're pretty good about giving me help on things. Like I told them I really wish there was a keystroke for something, and they said okay, and they added a keystroke that's just for me. I need to split the stereo. That's not the right one. The other Rand Winkler contribution. I need to split stereo really often, and I wanted a keystroke for it, so they made a keystroke just for me. So they would probably fix this problem for me. All right, let's hear how that sounds. Fabulous tutorial show notes and all of the examples.
Dumb
Dumb
questions.
Dumb questions. Dumb questions.
How do I? What is?
How come I always have to?
It's time for Dumb Question Corner.
Hey, Allison, here's my dumb question. I hear you talk about Homebrew for the Mac on the show, yet I'm not sure why I need it. What is it that I'm missing, and why should I install Homebrew for the Mac? Anyway, that's my dumb question. Thank you.
Okay, go here.
All homebrew for the Mac. Anyway, that's my dumb question. Thank you.
Well, that voice you just heard was actually Ryan
Hold on,
Winkler
Al.
that you heard just last week.
So they're
What's
not
wrong?
hearing this in Discord.
Yeah, they won't be able to.
Oh,
This is why I run Discord on my Mac.
so they can't hear playback.
I don't think they're going to be able to. Yeah,
Just your live voice.
That's why I have to be able to play Discord. So I'll read it to you real quickly. Ryan Winkler called in and he said, "I hear you mention homebrew on oh look, it's up. Okay, hang on. I'm gonna delete it off of here. I'm gonna do this. It came up.
Discord came up?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay, make sure you turn it off in the iPad.
I turned off the iPad.
Okay.
Okay. Yay. Okay. I'll let you hear this. This is exactly why I have to have it running on my Mac.
Yep.
Dumb
Dumb.
questions.
Dumb questions. Dumb questions.
How do I? What is?
How come I always have to?
It's time for Dumb Question Corner.
Hey, Allison, here's my dumb question. I hear you talk about homebrew for the Mac on the show, yet I'm not sure why I need it. What is it that I'm missing, and why should I install homebrew for the Mac? Anyway, that's my dumb question. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to do my recording.
And why should I install homebrew for the Mac? Anyway, that's my dumb question. Thank you.
So the voice you just heard is Ryan Winkler. You may remember him from last week's show where he did a recording about the iDevices switch for us. He actually sent in this dumb question. Boy, it's like a month ago, and I kept procrastinating answering because it was going to take me a little bit of thought to try to see whether he homebrew or you might need homebrew. Just because I need homebrew, I needed to figure out whether it was really broadly applicable. Well, I got to tell him the answer in short is maybe, maybe not. Let's walk through what homebrew is and what kind of fun things you can do with it so you can decide if it might be fun for you. To understand homebrew, let's take a little bit of a step back and talk about open source packages. Open source is a term that describes tools and applications that people write and then give away under a variety of different licenses. The licenses vary from allowing you to use, modify, and distribute for commercial purposes without attribution to more restrictive licenses that, maybe say you can't modify, but you have to give attribution, but you can use it for commercial purposes, and absolutely every combination in between. Well, often open source tools come as pretty little installer DMG files you double click, just like an expensive application. And often commercial applications include open source components. But there's a vast layer of interesting tools and applications you may never have heard of that you can play with that are accessible via a different path. Homebrew is a way of accessing open source tools via the command line, also known to Mac users as the terminal. Here's an example. Many people at some time or another have had a piece of audio or video that's in the wrong format. They need an app to transcode from one format to another. Maybe it's an audio file that they want to move from AIFF to MP3 or a video from MOV to MP4. Every single one of these apps uses an open source library called FFmpeg to accomplish this task, but it's all under the hood. I think I'm going to slide over into some examples to explain how I got hooked on Homebrew and the tools available through it. Okay, how come nobody noticed I said audio file, transcoding an audio file from TIFF to MP3? Can you guys tell that Sandy was out of town? Let me fix that. TIFF is a video format, right? No, I meant AIFF, didn't I?
I thought
What is TIFF?
TIFF is a photo format, I thought.
Yeah, photo. That's what it is. Okay, make sure I push this up to the thing. Graphics, TIFF. Thank you, Jill. Yeah, Sandy was out of town at a quilting convention, and Kaylee held up pretty well. She did some typos for me on the AirPods one, so at least that's good. All right, keeping going. Many years ago in my corporate job, I ran a little project to start a podcasting network inside this giant company I was working in. I was the boss of the other two people on the project, so they did the technical work, creating the database and web app to make it happen. It was kind of hokey and there was bureaucracy slathered all over this thing, but eventually my little team of three, including me, got a passable service created. It was audio only. But then our audience, I should say, wanted video podcasts as well. That didn't look like too hard of a problem, but the bureaucrats weighed in and announced that they wanted a still shot of the company logo stitched onto the front of every single video distributed via our little podcast network inside the company firewall. By this time, I had changed jobs, and then I had become a technical fellow instead of a boss lady. So these people no longer worked directly for me. I went to the guy who had written the original code and told him about this new requirement, and he said, "You figure it out." It was probably the harshest symbol of my loss of positional power, but that's a whole nother story. Now, remember, I was a mechanical engineer with a master's in kinematics, so a reasonably bright fellow, but I was not a programmer. But I decided to take on this challenge. I started by learning all about codecs. Codec stands for coder decoder. I then learned about the difference between a codec and a container. Codecs have things like bitrate and sample rate inside them. For example, a container is the name you see on the outside of an encoded audio video file, while the codec is exactly how it was encoded. Now, I'm going to stop there because this subject is a rat hole of epic proportions, but just keep in mind those are two different things. I did discover that there was this little library, our little friend FFmpeg, that would encode and decode videos and audios. More importantly, it could stitch files together. This was the tool I needed to add a still frame to the front end of a video and export a whole new video. I figured out how to find the dimensions of the video so the right still frame size was stitched on the front. I also learned that given the right parameters passed to FFmpeg, I could export this new stitched together file without transcoding the video again, which meant I might be able to do this whole thing without a great loss in quality. Now I'm not going to walk any further down memory lane here, but I did in the end succeed in stitching that darn company logo still frame to the front of every video we produced. The project overall wasn't really a success, but I learned a heck of a lot because of that formerly obedient employee saying, "You do it." Oh, come on, employing. Didn't say employee, it said employing. Boy, do I miss you when you're out of town, Sandy. So that actually was a real word, so spell check didn't find that one. All right, here we go. There we go. Back when I did all of this work, downloading the FFmpeg library required me to install what are called dependencies. I did have a wicked smart former employee of mine do the heavy lifting here because it's basically the seventh circle of HE double toothpicks to go through what are called dependencies. Basically, you install stuff and it goes, "Oh, yeah, I forgot that's dependent on this. Okay, install this one. Oh, I forgot that one's dependent on that. Oh, wait, I forgot it's dependent on that." You can just go on and it can go on for hours that you just keep finding all these dependencies. Now, that was the past. And that's exactly where Homebrew now comes into play. If you install Homebrew using a single terminal command available over at brew.sh first, you don't have too much to do. You basically issue this terminal command to install Homebrew, and you sit there with your hands folded politely until the text stops scrolling on screen. Next, you type the incredibly complex command. Get ready for it. This is to get FFmpeg. Are you ready? Brew, install FFmpeg. That's all you type. And again, with the politely folded hands until it's spitting nonsense on the screen, and it gets done with that, and now you have FFmpeg. Takes about 30 seconds for each command versus literally hours and hours we spent fighting dependencies in the old days. Now, none of that explains why you might want to use Homebrew, because I'd have to answer the question of whether you need FFmpeg. I can only think to answer by example. I did need FFmpeg again, and this example was for the podcast. I use a tool called ID3 Editor to add my ID3 tags to the Chit Chat Across the Pond episodes. This tool adds my name, the name of the show, the name of the episode, the year and the album, and the artwork and the genre as podcast, all embedded inside the MP3 file. And that's why you see a nice little logo and you know what the podcast is and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, the tool ID3 editor can save some of those items since they're consistent from week to week, like the logo, but there are some pieces that have to be done manually. For about 5 years, I entered those fields manually every single week. But one day I got tired of it and I decided to do something about it. I wrote a little bash shell script to create my very own ID3 editor. It took me a while to figure it out, but I determined early on that I could use our old friend FFmpeg to change things like the image and my name and the podcast name and license and genre. The entire script, without comments or line feeds to make it more readable, is 15 lines long. Now, sure, I spent weeks writing this tool, and it only saves me about 45 seconds a week to use my own tool. But those weeks writing it were fun, and I learned a lot. And every time I use my little script, I'm happy instead of irritated. Here's another example that does not involve FFmpeg. I think a slight drop shadow on an image really makes it stand out on the plain white background of a web page. Years ago, I found a little app called Drop Shadow from Del Sol Software that would let me drag an image onto it, and boom, the image would have a drop shadow. In the tool, I was able to modify the color of the shadow and the thickness of the shadow, and it was glorious. Pretty much every image on podfeed.com from that era was shadowed with Drop Shadow. Sadly, Del Sol Software disappeared, which made their app useless over time. In 2016, I had started to get my programming chops sharpened with Bart's help, and I figured out how to write my own drop shadow app. I used Homebrew to download a command line tool called ImageMagick from imagemagick.org. That's spelled Magick, by the way. To install ImageMagick, I used the crazy complicated command brew space install ImageMagick, and I was in business. Now, the only problem with ImageMagick was that it has so many options to play with, and it was really complicated because of that. Well, I eventually found some code online that was close to what I wanted, somebody using ImageMagick to put a drop shadow on, and I modified it to set my angle, color, thickness, and opacity of my shadow the way I wanted it. I then dropped it into an automator action, and my own personal drop shadow tool was ready for action, if you'll forget the play on words. Of course, I wrote this all up in a blog post way back then called Drop Shadow App Made with Automator and ImageMagick. That sounds really hard and complicated, but once you get over the idea that taking other people's open source code and modifying it is not immoral, it's actually not that hard to write scripts. I do make sure to put in a comment in my own code saying who I borrowed the code from in case I ever distribute something I wrote. I want other people to know where I got it. Now, there's a funny punchline to this story of my Drop Shadow app. I was very proud of it, and I used it for years. But then I got to know Helma from the Netherlands, who is a student of the Programming by Stealth series. She happens to be crazy good at CSS or cascading style sheets. She explained that I could non-destructively add a drop shadow to my images simply by styling them with CSS. She had me create a style, and then I just call it with a little code I plopped into Mars Edit, the tool I use for blogging. Now I have 100% consistency across all images if I choose to drop shadow them. If I ever change my mind on what I want that drop shadow to look like, I can change them all with a few touches of the keys. All right, here's another example. There was the awesome tip brought to us by the inimitable Nightwise in January of 2018. He explained how you can reinstall Mac App Store apps from the command line, starting with our little friend Homebrew. He showed us the terribly complex command. Get ready? Brew space install space mass to start the process. MAS for Mac App Store. From there, he explained that you can list all of the Mac App Store apps you have installed on your Mac with the command mass space list. This list includes a unique identifying number for each application. In equally mystical language, given this list with its numbers, you can install any of those apps on another Mac or the same Mac after nuke and pave by typing mass install followed by that unique number. And of course, there's a blog post all about that over on podfeed.com. Here's another time I used Brew. Remember how I figured out how to get a good 360 video out of the 180 separate videos per hour my Tesla creates? Well, I didn't write the code that did that, but I did have to have the lovely and memorable FFmpeg installed in order for that to work. Now, there's a little tool that might make Homebrew just a little less intimidating, and it's called CakeBrew from cakebrew.com. With CakeBrew, you can access the repository for Homebrew with a graphical user interface instead of the command line. One of the things I really like about CakeBrew is that it shows me all of the installed formulae. That's the dependencies and libraries and everything I use. I like it because I did not have to install all of this stuff myself. There are 69 different formulae in there, and I only asked for a couple of them. Everything else, all those dependencies, came along on their own. Now, I'm glad my former subordinate challenged me to figure out the video stitching on my own. I'm glad I learned about FFmpeg and about how annoying chasing down dependencies are. I'm glad that I learned about Homebrew so I didn't have to fight dependencies anymore. I'm glad I figured out how to use what I learned about FFmpeg from work to help me create my own ID3 editor. I love that I learned about ImageMagick from Bart and that I learned how to make a bash script so I could make my own little app to make my drop shadows. I love that I learned about CSS from Helma and found a better way to do my drop shadows. I was so proud that I was able to get my Tesla video out, partially because of FFmpeg from Homebrew. It's this constant desire to improve how I do things and learn new tools to do them that makes creating the podcast and blogs so darn much fun. So do you need Homebrew? Maybe, maybe not. But if you can figure out something you want to do that requires a command line interface to get you to it, you might just find a place in your heart for Homebrew like I did. Now, after I posted the article I've just told you about, Nightwise commented on Facebook that of course you need Homebrew. He pointed out one of his favorite command line tools that he gets from Homebrew, and that's a YouTube downloader. The command to get it is, of course, simple: brew install YouTube-DL. Nightwise was kind enough to link to an article he wrote over on nightwise.com where he narrows down the options for the reader. Let's see, I installed YouTube DL and I was overwhelmed with the options, so his webpage on it was super useful. Now, in order to prove to Ryan that he really does need Homebrew, I decided to do a meta example. Remember last week when Ryan did the review of the iDevices Switch? When he originally sent it over to me, he only sent me the video. I had to ask him for a separate audio file, and he dug back through his old records and was able to find the original audio file and send it over to me. But with Nightwise's instructions, he could have extracted the audio from the video using the tool YouTube-DL that you download using Brew. Now, of course, you can also use this to download videos and not just extract the audio. I know some videos are protected, so this tool won't always work, but for those that do allow downloads, it sure is useful when you want a quick and simple way to download a video. So let me ask you, do you need Brew? Okay, I found 2 more typos. Where were they? Talk amongst yourselves. Please and thank you. Time to add a chapter mark. Yes, hold
Well
that thought.
done, Rick.
Okay, it was, there it is. Installed. Supposed to be I installed. Did anybody check this? Man. I was gonna,
Thank
where
you,
he narrows
Cindy.
down the option. Installed YouTube.
When
Sausage
you have a
grinder.
chance.
Yeah.
Jill was asking, or commenting how interesting it is to see the show get made, and so sausage inevitably came into the conversation, and Sandy brought up the sausage grinder. So Jill must see this. In honor of Kevin, although Kevin's not here tonight.
Well, hang on. I'll point to it.
Do you want me to go get it?
No, go full frame on me.
All
Let me
right.
see. It's right there.
It's actually 90 degrees to how it would normally be mounted, I think.
I don't know. What's wrong with it? Oh, no, it's upside down, isn't it?
It's 90.
I think the burger would no, it's 180. It should be upright. It's flipped upside down.
I think the handle is on top and the burger comes out on that bottom, the part that's coming down the bottom.
No, that's where you shove the burger in. The burger comes out the side.
Okay.
The burger comes out over, how am I going to do this? I got to use this hand. Boy, it's hard to do marriage. Burger comes out here. Burger
Okay.
goes in here.
Okay.
That's where you shove the burger in, and it comes out of this thing here. All right.
180.
John, upside down.
Got it. Not 90.
So actually, there's a plastic one, too. Yeah, actually, if you look up on top, go full frame again. Oh, I might need to flip my camera up a little bit. If you look on top, let's see if I can, let's see, I gotta go over here.
It's
right
behind
there.
those characters.
Yeah, there's a white one. And that is because for a period of time, I didn't have in my old studio, I had a mantle behind me, and that's where all that stuff was. But for a while, but when I moved in here, we didn't have the bookshelf up there, so stuff used to be on this ledge on the window, and I couldn't. The sausage grinder was too heavy, so Kevin sent a plastic one.
I think it was a vegetable grind.
Yeah, it was
dicer,
technically a vegetable grinder,
but it looked just like a meat grinder.
I want to see
sausage
Al or
grinder.
Steve actually use the sausage grinder. Who's with me? No, it's disgusting.
All I can, well, I won't say it.
Oh, Steve, could you check the link to the AirPods Pro? Oh wait, no, that was the homebrew article. Make sure it's still there.
Homebrew article in your post,
Yes,
and it is
the online post. Make sure it's
yes,
not
it is
in.
active. It's working.
I have this problem that things switch to being in draft mode.
When you're
And
when you do an edit.
Yeah. All right.
So you chapter marked and saved?
I have not. I'm going to, though.
Thank you, Rick.
I wish this worked.
Oh, we got to show that.
No, too late.
Okay.
Not working. Is anybody in here good at what's it called? Keyboard Maestro.
I think Dave is.
Yeah, I asked him about it when I saw him again. So, all right. So, here's the AirPods, and here's the AirPods Pro.
And open each one.
Nobody mentioned how much bigger this case is. It's 26% bigger in volume.
And open the
so
other
they're
one
that
for
way
comparison?
instead of this way.
Yeah.
Of course, you can show the picture, which shows it even better. But
I'll be throwing that in.
But if you look at it sideways, this is way teenier. It's a lot bigger. Right. Good work, boss, Rick says. All right. Okay. All right. Recording now. Nope. Apparently I'm not. I was a big fan of the original AirPods, and I moved up to AirPods 2 when they were available as well. There wasn't much of a difference between the two models, but I was super excited about having wireless charging on the AirPods case. You may remember that we bought the Ampere Trifold wireless charger around the same time, which had a nice charging pad for the AirPods case. I have a confession to make, though. I haven't used the Ampere charger in ages. We unplugged it and threw it in a drawer. We both did. Turns out that laying the AirPods down or even a phone down on the Ampere wasn't the carefree experience we'd expected. We had to fiddle around a lot to get our phones and the AirPods lined up just right to actually get a charge. Turned out to be way easier to plug in a lightning cable. The good news is that the Ampere case came with the Ampere came with a fantastic 60-watt charger for very little money, and I use that charger all the time. I'm still in absolute love with the OmniCharge battery pack with USB-C and USB-A charging, and when I'm on the road, I use the Ampere 60-watt charger to recharge it. Half the time, I plug the OmniCharge into power and then use it to charge my MacBook Pro, my iPad Pro, and my iPhone and my watch, so it's sort of like a hub charger thing. Anyway, I tell you all of that to explain that the upgrade to the second generation AirPods was probably not that big, other than getting fresh new batteries. This week, Apple announced availability and shipping of the rumored AirPods Pro. So I bought a pair, and I thought it'd be interesting to compare this upgrade versus the previous one. Unlike the previous changes, the AirPods Pro are significantly different from the previous generation AirPods. I'm one of the lucky people with the right ear hole shape to wear all of the headphones Apple has ever sold. They go in, they stay in comfortably, and they don't fall out. I live with someone whose ear holes are wrong, at least according to Apple. I thought Steve was just being difficult on the subject until I saw him try to use a pair of earpods years ago to take a phone call, and they would simply fall right out. It was comical. He put them in, they just go boink and fall right out. So I figure we must talk about the fit of the new AirPods Pro first, because if they don't stay in your ears or are not comfortable, then there's no point in reading or listening any further. The new AirPods Pro are a significantly different design, with most notably a rubbery insert thingy to hold them in even difficult ear holes. I'm sure Apple has some fancy name for the rubbery insert thingy, but I'm going to use my own terminology. The rubbery insert thingy was the medium size by default, and both Steve and I simply could not get them into our ears at all. I swapped it out for the small size, which was kind of a trick to swap it out. It was an easy matter to pop the small size off the little piece of cardboard that was holding them that came in the box, but removing the medium rubbery insert thingy from the AirPods Pro was more problematic. One popped off pretty quickly, but it took a lot of prying and swearing to get the second one off. We were hesitant to just yank on it for fear of tearing the rubber. You can see two little dark areas that invite you to stick a thumbnail in there or something, but it wasn't as easy as we'd hoped. In any case, we eventually conquered this task. The good news is that with the small rubbery insert thingy in place, the AirPods Pro fit in my ears comfortably, and they even stayed in Steve's ears, at least through a quick jog down the street. This is a monumental improvement from can't wear them to might work for me for Steve and others with wrong ear holes. At the very end of this, you're going to hear a little bit more from Steve on this. While the AirPods Pro fit my ears and held in place, I instantly disliked them. They felt like ear plugs blocking me out from my surroundings. I guess that's the point of noise canceling headphones. But this is where things get kind of interesting. AirPods Pro have 3 modes. Off, which is like hearing through regular ear headphones that are plugging up your ears. Then there's noise cancellation, and I should call it active noise cancellation, which actively counters the sound coming in from the outside and gives you clearer audio coming through the headphones. Then there's transparency mode. This third mode allows some kinds of audio to come through, and I believe it's specifically tailored for human voice. Picture you're on an airplane and you don't want to hear the sound of the plane, but you do want to hear the lovely flight attendant offering you a cocktail. Transparency mode is designed for this. Now, transparency mode could be a lot safer if you wear your AirPods Pro while walking or running in the real world. When I got my first Bose in-ear noise canceling headphones, I tried them with active noise cancellation turned on while on my normal walk around the neighborhood with Tesla. I have to say, it was terrifying. I couldn't hear anything, and especially I could not hear cars. I know soon cars will all be silent like my Tesla car, but it was truly unsettling and it really did feel quite dangerous. Of course, I did a lot of experiments with AirPods Pro in different environments, testing the 3 modes, and my review is kind of mixed. The best way I can explain transparency mode is that it seems to change the audio coming into your ear to a higher frequency as it lets the sound through to your ears. For example, sitting at my Mac, my fans run fairly often because of the load I put on my Mac, like right now while I'm recording. And, sometimes applications misbehave. Chrome, I'm looking at you. So the fans are running pretty often. With AirPods Pro in either off mode or full noise cancellation mode, I don't notice the fans very much. That's even with them off. But as soon as I switch to transparency mode, the sound of the fans becomes quite shrill in my ears. I tested talking to my good friend Pat Dengler with both of us using AirPods Pro to chat. In noise cancellation mode, her voice was rich and full and sounded like she was in the room with me. But when I tried transparency mode, her voice became very tinny and didn't sound at all like her normal dulcet tones. I did a third test standing outside by a busy street. I was surprised to discover that the full noise cancellation mode did still allow me to hear cars, unlike the Bose. They were somewhat muted, but I could definitely hear even their tires on the road. With transparency mode, the sound of the car was more obvious and again at a much higher frequency. I noticed a very odd effect of transparency mode. I walked down the carpeted stairs in bare feet, and I could actually hear the crunch of the carpet under my little pod feet. I think they're amplifying all external audio and then upping the frequency. Now, if you've lost your high frequency hearing, this might mean you won't hear anything at all with transparency mode. I am gifted with continued good high frequency hearing, and actually to an absurd level that I actually wish would roll off a bit sometimes. This morning, Steve set his shaving cream can down on the counter, and it actually hurt. I kind of jumped when he did it. He didn't like slam it down either. It's just, I hear everything at high frequency. I did have Steve check the headphones in transparency mode, the AirPods Pro in transparency mode, and he too said the high frequency of my fans coming through in that mode was pretty annoying. I mentioned early on that the fit felt odd to me because I felt that my ears were plugged up even with them off. But while on my morning run, I found that the full noise cancellation mode was actually quite pleasing. I do get used to it. It's still a little weird when I first put them in, but I do get used to it. Now, control of AirPods Pro is significantly different than previous models. While versions 1 and 2 of AirPods had no buttons whatsoever, AirPods Pro each have a force-sensitive area, not a button, with which you can control the devices. I had read online about these 3 modes I've been discussing, and I learned that you can flip through the 3 modes by squeezing and holding this non-button area. But on my AirPods Pro, I was only able to toggle between what I assumed was transparency and noise cancellation. I was pretty sure I was never experiencing the off mode. On my run, I just happened to be listening to MacBreak Weekly, where Micah Sargent explained that there was a special control center area for controlling AirPods Pro. I stopped the audio and stopped running to check it out. In Control Center, where you can normally see the volume control, if you have AirPods Pro paired, you'll now see a pair of AirPods Pro on top of the volume slider graph thingy. I think that's a really good way to indicate that holding on that will bring you even more options. And I wish they had indicators on all of their control center icons so people realized they could press for more options. For example, did you know that finally under Wi-Fi, under the Wi-Fi symbol in Control Center, you can actually change your network? It's epic. Anyway, after you hold on the AirPods Pro icon, you get the full-size volume slider and 3 buttons for noise cancellation, off, and transparency modes. I was able to control the modes with these 3 buttons, and I was also able to confirm that pressing the fake button on the AirPods Pro was only toggling between noise cancellation and transparency. This method made me remember that there's a way to control the behavior of AirPods of all flavors. On regular AirPods, you can tap, double tap, and even triple tap anywhere on them to get them to do your bidding and also to fall out of your ears. But to control what happens on the tapping or squeezing, oh, shoot, didn't make it. Sorry. I don't think you're unmuted there, Steve, if you were saying something.
You okay there, Pod Feet?
Nope. On regular AirPods, I'll do that. On regular AirPods, I just wanted some beer. All right. All right. On regular AirPods, you can tap, double tap, and even triple tap anywhere on them to get them to do your bidding and also to fall out of your ears. But to control what happens on the tapping or squeezing of any flavor of AirPods, there's a trick. On the iPhone, open Settings and then Bluetooth. If you have AirPods on and connected, you can see a little eye and a blue circle to the right of the AirPods name. In there, you can disconnect or forget the device and also change the name. But you'll also find control for what happens with tapping and squeezing on the left and right AirPod. Now we'll focus on squeezing AirPods Pro today. The official wording, by the way, is press and hold AirPods, and there's a control for left and right separately. By default, both left and right were set to noise control. Tapping through for each ear, you can choose to keep noise control, or you can change one or both to Siri. I looked at the noise control settings, and by default, both ears were set to only toggle between noise cancellation and transparency, skipping right over the mode called off. I toggled the off option back on, and now I was able to flip between the 3 options by squeezing. I'm not quite sure why they disabled that mode. As a side note, when you flip between the modes, they make a little different sound. Can't quite describe it, but it's pretty easy to tell which one is which. I think they want you to really like the transparency mode because it's a much more delightful noise than the other 2. In the same settings section, you can change the noise control mode, and the only thing I can figure is that it's setting the default for when you put them in. In the same area, to control the behavior of the squeezer, there's an option to do an ear tip fit test. The on-screen instructions tell you to put in your AirPods Pro, and it will play an audio test that will confirm whether you have the right fit. The first time I ran it, it said my left AirPod was well-fitting, but on the right it said I should either swap out the tip or adjust the AirPod and try again. I wiggled the AirPod a bit in my left ear and made it a bit more comfortable. I mean, on the right ear. and I made it a bit more comfortable. And then the test said I passed the ear tip fit test. I'm not an audiophile, so I can't actually tell you whether Apple's claim that their continuous adjustment of noise cancellation at 200 times per second, which isn't continuous, by the way, I can't tell whether that's had an effect on the quality of what I can hear. If you've ever had trouble getting other Apple headphones to stick in your ears, Apple's new AirPods Pro might finally allow you to join the cool kids for $250. Now, if that sounds like an outrageous price to pay, consider that the Bose Quiet Comfort 20 in-ear noise-canceling headphones are also $250, and they're not even Bluetooth. If you're on the fence about paying $250 for a pair of headphones that could break in a year or have a bad battery in a year and a half or get dropped into a toilet 2 days after you buy them, there is good news. For $29, you can get Apple Care Plus on AirPods Pro. This covers normal hardware problems and 2 incidences of accidental damage for a service fee of $29 for each incident. Without Apple Care, you get 1 year of hardware repair coverage, no accidental damage coverage, and 90 days of tech support. I think in the EU and possibly other places, you get a 2-year warranty by default, so be sure to check your local coverage before shelling out the extra money. Personally, I buy Apple Care and everything from Apple, and I use the daylights out of it, so I paid the $29. So far, I like the AirPods Pro, and I think I'll keep wearing them, but I'm not sure they're as comfortable as regular AirPods for me. I still think they're a significant upgrade and will make a lot of people with wrong ear holes happy. Now, speaking of wrong ear holes, I promised to give you some more news from Steve regarding the AirPods Pro. He didn't have a chance to record it, so I'm going to read it for you. Here's what he wrote. Steve here with an update on how the AirPods Pro fit in my hard-to-fit ear canals. That's what I call wrong ear holes. Allison mentioned that I tried them on earlier for a brief half-block jog, but it wasn't a sufficient test to really see if they would stay in my ears during a full run. So today, I tried wearing Allison's AirPods Pro for my full 5-mile run on the beach. I have to say I'm impressed. AirPods Pro are the first earbuds I've worn that have stayed in my ears through an entire workout. I didn't even have to make an adjustment partway through my run to ensure they stayed in my ears. I did have to get used to the pause, play, and skip forward, backward presses on the AirPods Pro stem. I don't like using Siri on my run, but that didn't take but a few attempts before I got it down. Even though I used the full noise cancellation feature on my run, I could still hear enough exterior noise to avoid other runners and bikers coming up from behind to feel safe. Allison and I also did a quick sound comparison between the AirPods Pro and the Powerbeats Pro. We paired my iPhone with both AirPods Pro and Powerbeats Pro at the same time, which is kind of cool. Then we put one AirPods Pro earbud and one Powerbeats Pro earbud in each of our ears, so we were each wearing half and half. Then I was able to individually lower and raise the volume of each set to compare the sound quality that each offered in our left and right ears while we listened to the same song. The bottom line is that though the Powerbeats Pro delivered great sound quality, the AirPods Pro was slightly better, a little richer in sound. I have to give it to Apple. I think they actually listened to those people with hard-to-fit ears and made a product that solved our problem, albeit for a relatively stiff price. Whew.
Okay, so I need to take issue. Let's not use wrong ear holes. Let's use hard to fit ear holes.
Oh, I like calling it wrong. You're hearing it wrong. Do you guys ever get? Steve made a typo, and I do this typo all the time. Where you do a contraction. I know it's hard to believe. You do a contraction, and somehow you end up with the apostrophe on either side of the
two apostrophes.
Here, this is what Steve typed, and that happens to me all the time, and I don't know where that comes from.
I don't remember typing that.
Oh, I'm sure it was me doing it, right? All right, so that's been set up. Save and add a chapter mark. We're having pun now. Oh my goodness, that's horrible. All right.
Rose has to leave a bit early. Her battery's dying. Do you want to?
Oh, bye, Rose.
Kiss her farewell.
Ooh, I am not going to do the I moved pod feet you didn't even notice. I'm going to save that
running
for
out
next
of
week.
Time?
No, I've just got enough content that I can save it and not have to do as much work next week. Whoop.
Where are you at right now?
At 31 minutes and I got an hour of security bits.
Oh, yes.
Yay. Okay, so that'll go on. Let me find next week's and make sure I put it in there. Oh, yeah.
Oh, Jill has
that's
to leave
awesome.
as well.
All right. Bye, Jill. All right. Thanks for coming. Doesn't happen to you even on my MacBook Pro. Okay, so maybe it's me. Elliot says he had weird issues, too many keyboard shortcuts programs. Oh, Jill's not leaving.
Oh, what did I see?
Oh, she was saying goodbye to Rose.
Oh,
That's funny, Steve.
All
right.
No, it's not a MacBook Pro issue because I'm typing on an iMac regular, a Bluetooth keyboard, so I don't have butterfly keys or any problem like that.
He says,
I can't blame it
back,
on
Jill.
that. Welcome back, Jill.
Okay, so did anybody else say they have seen it? No. It could get irritating. Oh, John, jeez.
Ooh.
That is bad. Do have to stand bossy watch. I like it. All right. So I am going to do okay, pledge break.
Maybe we should get Frank to have some little jingle.
I
Since
think
he
I
loves the
do. I
pledge
need a
break so
pledge
much.
break. I would totally play a pledge break jingle if somebody wants to write it.
I think some words from Frank.
Oh, since I stopped using TextBanner, I haven't had those weird issues. Oh, don't stop using TextBanner. That's the best. I could try to commission Victor.
Victor.
Yeah, if you asked him, he'd do it. All right, pledge break. Here we go.
All right.
All right, Frank's going to do it. Okay. We are now officially into the holiday shopping season. You have started your holiday shopping, right? Well, that means it's time for the annual reminder to suggest that you use the Amazon affiliate links in the show notes to start your shopping. Let's say you hear me mention a swell product on the show, like the OmniCharge battery pack with USB-C and USB-A charging that I just worked into the AirPods Pro conversation. You can bet there's a link to it in the show notes on Amazon. If you click that link and buy the OmniCharge battery pack or buy something completely different in that same session, a small percentage of what you buy will go to help pay those pesky hosting bills that I have to pay. Remember, I'm spending, I worked a joke in and now it doesn't work because I didn't read that story. And there was a typo. So you mentioned a small bar like that. If you click that link and buy the OmniCharge, and there it is. Okay, let's try. I'm just going to start that over. Pledge break. We are now officially into the holiday shopping season. You have started your Christmas and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa shopping, right? That means it's time for the annual reminder to suggest that you use the Amazon affiliate links in the show notes to start your shopping. Let's say you hear me mention a swell product on the show, like the OmniCharge battery pack with USB-C and USB-A charging that I just managed to squeeze into the AirPods Pro conversation. Anyway, you can bet that there's a link to it in the show notes on Amazon. If you click that link and buy the OmniCharge battery pack, or you buy something completely else in that same session, a small percentage of what you buy will go to help pay those pesky hosting bills. I appreciate all of you who use the links already. It makes a huge difference. 2 or 3
Okay,
snips.
so did you say annual reminder or weekly reminder?
Okay, that's
Brett pointed that
No,
out. Brett caught that.
Annual reminder to use them for your holiday
for
shopping.
The holiday. Oh, okay. Technicality there.
Yes. Yes. See, totally different.
Totally.
Are you guys giving me a hard time?
No.
Oh, show my screen. Show my screen.
Show my screen. Okay.
Okay. So you see this orange stuff here. The darker stuff is me, and that's Bart, and that's me, and that's Bart talking. But if you go up to Tools, Split Stereo, see how it says, oh, you can't see it. Shoot. It says Option T. So I'm just going to hit Option T and boom, Split Stereo.
Is that the command you asked for?
That's my personal keystroke.
It's the the pod feet command.
Yeah. And then I bring
Option
Bart
T.
in. And I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to slide this over some. And then I'm going to do an option T when that comes in all the way. And boom. Oh, I should let you guys listen to.
Oh, did we get a blink?
Oh, yeah, there's a plink.
Plink.
Okay, here you
go. Plink.
There was a laugh and a plink.
A hiccup there? What was that?
No, he's laughing.
Okay. Plink. Plink.
See, Jill, this is the kind of quality stuff that you don't get if you don't
Just
come to the live show.
podcast.
Yeah. Let's see. That's Command B, delete. Command B. Sorry for the plink is gone. And now I get rid of my track on his, and I get rid of his track on mine. And now, in theory, those two, if I slide them over right about.
Is this what they call a double ender, Al?
Yep. Let's hear how that sounds. It makes a huge difference. Well, it's that time of the week again. It's time for Security Bits with Bart Busschots. There's something important missing from Security Bits this week, Bart.
Yeah, nothing reached up as high as medium, which is the first time in a very long time. Usually it's a fight to figure out what can I demote from becoming, medium number 4.
Well,
no.
Maybe this is good news? Or is it death by 1,000 paper cuts news?
I'll let the listeners be the judge of that. It certainly isn't the case that my RSS reader was empty. It's just little bits of news.
Yeah.
First off, we have notables.
Okay. I managed to make him spend some time telling me stuff, though. Yeah, look, hour and 20 minutes. That was a good... I had a feeling I wouldn't need to use what I wrote.
That's probably good enough.
So what I cut from the show is I moved... Oh, save alert. Thank you. Oh, I didn't do...
Chapter mark?
Didn't do a chapter mark. I did not.
Good job, Rick. We'll tell Wingman Kevin you were on top of things.
Yeah, you need to get some text expander snippets there. Save and chapter. Did the light just turn off? Yeah, my light just turned off again. Oh. What's going on with this Wisecam link?
Poltergeist.
Oh, come on. Oh. No, come on. Where is it? There it is. Come on. Coming back. There we go. Okay, so that is... Command Shift M. Nope. Command M. Nope. There it is. That's what I did the first time. All right. And I go copy that. Meatball over the worm. What are you guys talking about?
That's a NASA jargon.
Oh,
there are two NASA
the logo.
Logos. The meatball is the classic one from '58 when they were formed.
Okay, I didn't know you were talking about NASA, and all I saw was I prefer the meatball over the worm.
The worm was the one from when was it, the 80s or 90s? John will know, I'm sure. And it just looks, it's not the same. It's not classic. I grew up with Apollo. That's meatball all the way.
Okay, but the funny thing is I didn't know you were talking about the logo.
Oh, okay. You
just sort of a medium on demand.
All right, sounds good. Well, we'll see you again next time.
Indeed. And until then, remember, everyone, stay patched so you stay secure.
Right. Well, that's going to wind us up for this week. Do not forget to send in your dumb questions, comments, and suggestions by emailing me at allison@podfeed.com. You, too, can be as cool as Ryan Winkler and send in a dumb question. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm at Podfeed. Remember, anything you want starts with podfeed.com. You could go to, you want to become a patron of the Podfeed podcast? Podfeed.com/Patreon. You want to join our Facebook group? Podfeed.com/Facebook. You want to join our Slack community like Chris did this week and got a really important question in that I'm going to talk about next week. That's at podfeed.com/Slack. And if you want to join in the fun of the live show like Jill did for the first time this week, head on over to podfeed.com/live on Sunday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Join the friendly and enthusiastic NosillaCastaways. We missed you this week, Kevin. Thanks for listening and stay subscribed. Yay. All right. NosillaCast outro. Maybe around there. Oh, that's not right at all. So did you have fun at your quilting convention, Sandy? I hope so. Going down a little bit there. That's how that sounds. Thanks for listening and stay subscribed. Whoops, that wasn't right at all. Boy, grabbed the wrong spot. You're not talking, Steve.
Whoop.
Have you
I didn't
been
want
talking?
to interrupt your production there. Plus, I was reading
okay.
the chat room. So Sandy, yes,
Kevin.
she did.
Thanks for listening and stay subscribed.
Gorgeous quilts, great teachers, lots of shopping.
How fun. Sounds like a blast. So according to my notes, I only have 3 things in here. Dumb question, corner, AirPods, and security bits. I feel like there was more than that.
Well, yeah, you deleted the Bluehost thing. Hey, did you?
Oh, it's an hour and 20 minutes long.
That's plenty. Did you introduce Corky to Sandy?
I did.
Good.
Have they gotten to start talking to each other yet? Ask Sandy.
So Corky is our great friend who we see every year.
He's our chauffeur. Steve, just say it.
I consider him more than a chauffeur. He's a great guy, and I love his dog. He's got the biggest. Was it Mastiff? What kind of dog is it?
No,
it was
not
a
Mastiff.
It was a huge dog. Lovely dog.
Yeah, they've heard about the dog.
Yeah.
Boy, you let that story drop in the middle when you could remember the dog's name.
Yeah.
Type of
dog.
Because
I went off to look for pictures of the dog.
But it wasn't a story about a dog. The story was that he's a quilter.
Well, but Corky's got a great dog too. You can bring a dog in. Pyrenees? I don't.
No, not a Pyrenees. All right, you're gonna have to go find it.
Yeah. What is Max stock? Late July?
It's it starts on. It goes over Forbes's birthday. Okay, Sandy, here's a good question. If you have one iPad, or wait, what was the example? No, if you have one iPad, you have one iPad Pro. If you have 2 of them, they're iPads Pro, like sisters-in-law. If you have 2 AirPods, Pro, is that AirPods Pros? AirPods is Pro?
Huh. AirPods.
How do you pluralize AirPods Pro? Too many. Yeah, too much money. AirPods Pro, just clarify. But AirPods Pro is already what they're called. This is an AirPods Pro. But maybe it's talking about those are AirPods Pro, not this is AirPods Pro. 2 pairs of AirPods Pro. Oh, fine. You took all the fun out of it there. All right. Well, it is 6:05. We should let class go, Steve.
We should. They were well behaved. No need to keep them after class.
Yep. Well, that's because Sandy actually did come in.
Yeah. Gaggle
I don't
of
think
AirPods
I said hi to
Pro.
Brett.
Yes, Jill's got it.
Gaggle?
That's if you got 3 or more.
I like it. Oh, and Dorothy came in. I missed Dorothy sneaking in too. All right. Well, we should say goodbye. I don't know. Rose is already gone, but I'll kiss you all goodbye anyway. Goodbye. Cut us off, Steve.
All right. Night, Gracie.